Hello, listener. If you're hearing my voice right now, I need you to stop whatever you're doing and listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Because in the next 60 seconds, the information I give you might be the difference between you living through today or becoming one of them. My name is David Morgan. You know me from the morning show on 94.9 FM, but it's 5:47 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, and this is not the morning show. This is something else entirely. 18 minutes ago, I was asleep in my bed when my phone exploded with calls from people screaming, and I mean literally screaming, about something happening at the Ocean Beach Pier. My first instinct was to ignore it, roll over, go back to sleep, because people call radio stations with crazy stories all the time. But then the second call came, and the third. And by the fifth call, I was getting dressed, because 5 different people don't call you at 5:30 in the morning, screaming the same insane story, unless something very real and very wrong is happening. I'm at the station now. I've been here for 11 minutes, and I'm looking at video footage that was sent to our tip line from someone's phone camera down at the pier. The timestamp says 5:31 a.m., 16 minutes ago. What I'm seeing in this video shouldn't be possible. A person, and I'm using that word loosely, attacking another person on the pier. Not fighting, not arguing, attacking like an animal, biting, tearing. And when 2 other people tried to pull the attacker away, that attacker turned on them with speed and strength that looks wrong, looks inhuman. And within seconds, those 2 people were on the ground, bleeding from bite wounds to their necks and faces. But here's the part that made me drive to this station at 5 in the morning instead of calling the police and going back to bed. In that video, you can see the person doing the attacking has injuries that should have stopped them. Their left arm is clearly broken, hanging at an angle that makes me nauseous just looking at it. There's blood covering their face and chest, and they're moving in this jerky, wrong way like a puppet with cut strings. But despite all that, despite injuries that should have them on the ground unconscious or dead, they're attacking with focused aggression that doesn't stop even when one of the victims hits them with a piece of driftwood hard enough that you can hear the impact on the video. And there's one detail in the video that I haven't told you yet, because I needed to verify it first. I'll explain that in just a moment. I'm alone in the studio right now, because it's not even 6 a.m., and the morning crew doesn't arrive until 7. But I'm on the air. I'm broadcasting, because in the 14 minutes since I got to the station, I've received 43 more calls. Not from Ocean Beach, from Pacific Beach, from La Jolla, from Point Loma, from downtown Gaslamp Quarter, from Hillcrest, from North Park, all describing similar attacks. All describing people behaving in ways that aren't possible. All describing victims who then become attackers within minutes of being bitten. At 5:49 a.m., I need to tell you what the San Diego Police Department is saying on their emergency channels, because I'm monitoring those channels right now, and what I'm hearing is controlled panic. Officers responding to Ocean Beach Pier found multiple victims with severe bite wounds. When they attempted to provide first aid, one of those victims, a woman who was conscious and responsive 2 minutes earlier, attacked a police officer, bit his hand. When other officers pulled her off, she attacked them with what the officers are describing as inhuman strength and complete absence of pain response. They deployed tasers. She didn't react. They deployed pepper spray directly in her face. She didn't blink. It wasn't until one officer physically struck her in the head with his baton multiple times that she finally stopped moving. That was Ocean Beach Pier, but at 5:51 a.m., SDPD is reporting similar incidents at 16 different locations across San Diego. 16 separate violent attacks, all matching the same pattern, all occurring within the same 40-minute window. Officers are requesting backup at every location. But there aren't enough units to respond because new calls are coming in faster than officers can be deployed. The emergency dispatch system is being overwhelmed, and we're not even at 6 a.m. yet. I'm going to play you something now that was sent to our station from someone at Sharp Memorial Hospital. This is a voice message from a nurse whose name I'm not going to use, but I verified she works there, and this message is legitimate. I'm playing this because you need to understand what's happening inside our hospitals right now. The voice message describes a patient brought in at 5:34 a.m. with severe bite wounds to the neck and shoulder. The patient was alert, asking for help, answering questions about what happened. The medical team started treating the wounds, standard trauma protocol. But at 5:41 a.m., 7 minutes after arrival, that patient suddenly became violent, attacked the nurse who was cleaning the wounds. When other staff tried to restrain the patient bit a doctor on the forearm. Both the nurse and doctor are now showing symptoms including extremely high fever, confusion, and aggressive behavior. The patient who attacked them had to be physically restrained to a bed, and according to this nurse, that patient is no longer responding to verbal communication, shows no recognition of medical staff trying to help, and is constantly trying to bite anyone who comes close. At 5:54 a.m., Sharp Memorial has treated 9 patients from various attack incidents across the city in the past 20 minutes. 9 patients. And 7 of those 9 are showing the same rapid progression from victim to violent attacker within minutes of arriving at the hospital. The nurse who sent that voice message is asking what they should do because their emergency department is becoming more dangerous than the streets outside. Let me tell you what I know right now at 5:56 a.m. because I've been on the phone with sources, monitoring emergency channels, watching videos being sent to us, and trying to piece together what's happening in San Diego. There are at least 30 confirmed incidents across the city of people attacking others with focused aggression, biting as the primary method of assault. Victims of these attacks are progressing to violent behavior themselves within 5 to 15 minutes of exposure. Multiple police officers have been attacked by victims they were trying to help. At least 2 hospitals are reporting that their emergency departments are being overwhelmed by violent patients. And all of this started less than an hour ago. I don't know what's causing this. I don't know if it's some kind of drug outbreak, some kind of chemical exposure, some kind of disease. But what I do know is that it's spreading fast. It's spreading through the most densely populated areas of San Diego, and every person who gets attacked seems to become an attacker themselves within minutes. That's exponential growth. That's one person attacking 5 people, those 5 attacking 25, those 25 attacking 125. Do the math on how fast that could consume a city of 1.4 million people? At 5:58 a.m., the sun is going to rise in approximately 27 minutes. Right now, San Diego is still mostly dark. Most people are still asleep. Most of the city has no idea what's developing while they're in their beds. But in 27 minutes, daylight is going to reveal whatever this is in full detail. And I have a terrible feeling that what we're seeing in these early morning hours is just the beginning of something much worse. San Diego Fire Rescue just broadcast at 5:59 a.m. that they're responding to a multi-vehicle accident on the Coronado Bridge. This is the major bridge connecting downtown San Diego to Coronado Island, where the naval base is located. According to their initial radio traffic, they're finding the accident scene, but they're also finding something else. People on the bridge attacking other people who are trapped in their crashed vehicles. The first paramedics on scene attempted to help victims and were themselves attacked. Fire Rescue is now requesting police backup before they can approach the scene, which tells you how bad this situation has become when firefighters and paramedics won't go near victims without armed police protection. At 6:01 a.m., I need to tell you something that's going to sound absolutely insane, but I'm reading it directly from hospital communications that I'm monitoring. UC San Diego Medical Center is reporting that a patient who died from injuries sustained in one of these attacks, a patient who was pronounced clinically dead with no heartbeat and no respiration, sat up approximately 3 minutes after death, was pronounced and attacked a doctor who was in the room. The hospital is describing it as the patient reanimating after death, and I understand how that sounds. I understand that reanimation after clinical death is medically impossible, but that's what's being reported by medical professionals who know the difference between someone who's unconscious and someone who's actually dead. The first official emergency alert was broadcast at 6:03 a.m., the city of San Diego. Emergency services is telling residents to shelter in place, avoid areas where violent incidents are being reported, and call 911 if they witness attacks or aggressive behavior. But here's the problem with that guidance. 911 is overwhelmed. People are calling 911 and being put on hold for 10, 15, 20 minutes because there are too many calls and not enough dispatchers. By the time someone answers your call, the situation you're calling about has already evolved or resolved, usually with someone dead or infected or whatever we're calling this condition. At 6:05 a.m., I'm seeing the first news helicopter footage. Our sister station's news chopper went up a few minutes ago, and they're broadcasting live video of downtown San Diego. Even in the pre-dawn darkness, you can see something is very wrong. There are abandoned cars in the middle of streets with doors standing open. There are people running through the gas lamp quarter. There are fires burning in at least 3 different buildings. And if you zoom in on the thermal camera, you can see heat signatures of groups of people moving through the streets in ways that don't look like normal pedestrian traffic. They're moving together, in groups, following other people. The Coronado Bridge was closed in both directions at 6:07 a.m. by the California Highway Patrol. This cuts off the primary connection between downtown San Diego and Coronado Island, which means tens of thousands of people are now trapped on one side or the other. The CHP is citing the earlier accident plus multiple reports of people on foot on the bridge attacking motorists. If you're on Coronado right now, you're not getting off that island via the bridge. And if you're in downtown San Diego, you can't evacuate to Coronado. At 6:09 a.m., Sharp Memorial Hospital just made a decision I never thought I'd hear from a major medical facility. They're closing their emergency department to new patients. Not because they're full, but because they've lost control of the department. Multiple patients have become violent, broken restraints, attacked staff, and other patients. The hospital administrator made the call that accepting more patients into that environment would just create more casualties. So they're locking down the emergency department and directing ambulances to other hospitals. Think about what that means. One of San Diego's largest hospitals just declared their AA no-go zone less than 90 minutes after the first incident. The San Diego Police Department called me directly at 6:11 a.m. The public information officer, someone I've worked with for years on community stories, called my cell phone and asked me to broadcast specific information. They're telling people that if they encounter someone showing aggressive behavior, especially someone trying to bite or attack others, do not approach them, do not try to help them, do not try to restrain them. Call 911, give a location, and get to safety. Officers responding to these incidents have found that standard control methods, including verbal commands, physical restraint, tasers, and pepper spray, are largely ineffective. The only thing that reliably stops these individuals is overwhelming physical force, specifically strikes to the head, and the department is now authorizing officers to use lethal force if necessary to stop attacks in progress. At 6:13 a.m., I'm going to take my first call from a listener because people need to hear from others who are experiencing this. Caller, you're on Outbreak FM. Tell me your name and where you are. David, this is Mike. I'm in Pacific Beach, and I can see them from my apartment window. There are people in the street attacking other people. I watched someone get pulled out of their car at the stoplight, and 3 people were biting them, actually biting chunks out of them. And when someone tried to help, they got attacked too. The police came, but even the police couldn't stop them. This is real. This is actually happening, and I don't know what to do. Mike, the most important thing is that you stay inside your apartment right now. Lock your door. Stay away from windows. Don't go outside to help anyone or investigate anything. I know that sounds harsh, but based on what we're seeing across the city, going outside right now is extremely dangerous. Do you have food and water in your apartment? Yeah, I have some stuff. But David, how long do I need to stay inside? What's happening? What is this? I don't have answers yet, Mike. Nobody does. But stay inside, keep your phone charged, keep this radio on, and we'll keep you informed as we learn more. And if this broadcast is reaching you right now, make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss the next emergency update. Because every minute matters. You're doing the right thing by staying safe. Thank you for the call. At 6:16 a.m., the San Diego Fire Rescue Chief just announced that all fire rescue units are being pulled back to defensive positions at their stations. They're no longer responding to calls in high-incident areas, including downtown Gaslamp Quarter, Pacific Beach, and Ocean Beach. This is the fire chief essentially saying there are parts of San Diego that are too dangerous for first responders to enter, which means if you're in one of those areas and you need help, nobody is coming. You're on your own. The sun is rising at 6:19 a.m. I can see the first light coming through the studio windows. In a few minutes, we're going to have full daylight, and we're going to see clearly what's been developing in darkness for the past 90 minutes. Part of me wants that visibility. Part of me is terrified of what it's going to show us. At 6:21 a.m., UC San Diego Medical Center is reporting the same situation as Sharp Memorial. Their emergency department has been overtaken by violent patients, and they're evacuating staff to other parts of the hospital. That's 2 major hospitals in San Diego that have lost their emergency rooms in less than 2 hours. If this pattern continues, we're going to have a situation where people can't get medical treatment even for normal emergencies because hospitals are too dangerous to enter. The first military involvement was reported at 6:23 a.m. when a naval helicopter from Coronado Naval Base flew over downtown San Diego, broadcasting warnings through loudspeakers. The helicopter is telling people to stay indoors, avoid contact with aggressive individuals, and wait for official assistance. But the helicopter isn't landing. It's not evacuating anyone. It's just circling and broadcasting warnings while whatever this is continues spreading below. At 6:25 a.m., I'm seeing social media exploding with videos from across San Diego. People are uploading footage of attacks, of people being bitten, of victims transforming into attackers. The videos are graphic, they're disturbing, and they're spreading virally across every platform. What's happening in San Diego is becoming visible to the entire world in real time, and I'm seeing comments from people in other cities saying they're starting to see similar incidents. Los Angeles has reports. Phoenix has reports. Las Vegas has reports. This might not be limited to San Diego. The infection count estimate came in at 6:27 a.m. from the San Diego County Emergency Operations Center. Based on incident reports and hospital admissions, they're estimating approximately 200 confirmed cases of this aggressive behavior across the county. 200 people who are attacking others, spreading infection through bites. But here's the terrifying part. If each of those 200 people bites just 3 people before being stopped, that's 600 new cases. If those 600 each bite 3 people, that's 1,800 new cases. We could be looking at exponential growth that consumes the entire city within hours if this isn't contained immediately. At 6:29 a.m., the mayor's office released their first statement. I'm reading it now. The city of San Diego is experiencing a public health emergency involving incidents of violent behavior across multiple locations. All residents are advised to remain indoors and avoid areas where incidents have been reported. Emergency services are responding. Additional information will be provided as it becomes available. That's the official statement. Notice what it doesn't tell you. It doesn't explain what's causing this. It doesn't tell you what to do if you encounter these violent individuals. It doesn't provide any timeline for resolution. It just tells you to stay inside and hope for the best. San Diego International Airport suspended operations at 6:31 a.m. All incoming flights are being diverted to other airports. All outgoing flights are canceled. The airport is reporting security incidents in multiple terminals where passengers or staff are attacking others. They're evacuating people from the terminals to parking areas while they try to establish security. But based on what we're seeing elsewhere, I don't think they're going to be able to secure that airport without military intervention. At 6:33 a.m., the full sunrise is revealing San Diego in daylight for the first time since this began. From the news helicopter camera, I can see the city, and what I'm seeing is wrong. There are fires burning in multiple neighborhoods. There are abandoned cars blocking major streets. There are people running through areas that should be empty at this hour. And there are groups of individuals moving through the streets in coordinated ways that look purposeful, hunting, predatory. The California Highway Patrol announced at 6:35 a.m. that they're closing all major highways in and out of San Diego. Interstate 5 North and South, Interstate 8 East, Highway 94, all being shut down with roadblocks and checkpoints. They're saying it's to manage evacuation traffic, but what it really means is they're quarantining San Diego. They're preventing people from leaving the city because they don't want whatever this is spreading to other communities. At 6:37 a.m., I need to tell you about a video that just came into our station. This was recorded in Balboa Park about 15 minutes ago. Balboa Park is that beautiful 1,600-acre park in the heart of San Diego with museums and gardens. In this video, you can see dozens of people in the park, but they're not tourists or morning joggers. They're attacking anyone they encounter. The video shows a family with small children trying to run away, and these attackers are chasing them down with speed that looks wrong. Some of these attackers are clearly injured. Some are covered in blood, but they're running at full speed chasing victims through the park. Character count Part 1, approximately 19,500. Part 2. The San Diego Zoo called our station at 6:41 a.m. Someone from their security team is reporting that they have an incident with one of their overnight staff members who attacked other employees. The staff member showed no response to verbal commands, attacked with focused aggression, trying to bite people, and had to be locked in an office to prevent further attacks. But here's the disturbing part. The zoo security chief is asking if this aggressive behavior could spread to the animals, and I don't have an answer for that. If this is some kind of pathogen that causes this behavior, can it cross species barriers? Could we end up with aggressive, infected animals loose in a zoo full of dangerous predators? That's a nightmare scenario I don't even want to consider. At 6:43 a.m., Marcus Webb just arrived at the station. Marcus is my usual producer. He should have been here at 6 for normal show prep, but he got caught in traffic trying to get here because the streets are chaos. He's here now. He's setting up to monitor emergency channels and coordinate information while I broadcast. Having Marcus here changes everything because now I have someone helping me track multiple sources simultaneously instead of trying to do it all myself. Marcus is telling me at 6:45 a.m. that he's monitoring reports from the Mexican border. Mexico has closed the border crossing at San Isidro, which is normally the busiest land crossing in the Western Hemisphere. They've deployed military forces, and they're not allowing anyone to cross from the U.S. into Mexico. Mexico is treating the United States, or at least Southern California, as an infected zone and protecting their population by sealing the border. That means San Diego residents can't escape south even if they could reach the border through the city chaos. The first confirmed law enforcement death was reported at 6:47 a.m. An SDPD officer responding to a call in North Park was attacked by multiple individuals and is confirmed deceased. The officer's partner reported that standard less lethal control methods didn't stop the attackers, and by the time the partner used lethal force, it was too late to save the first officer. We just lost our first police officer, and based on what we're seeing, it won't be the last. At 6:49 a.m., I'm looking at a map Marcus created showing all the reported incidents across San Diego. There are now over 150 documented locations where attacks have occurred. The highest concentrations are in downtown, Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, and Hillcrest. But there are scattered incidents in virtually every neighborhood, from Imperial Beach in the south to Oceanside in the north. This is not contained to any specific area. This is citywide outbreak. Scripps Mercy Hospital reported at 6:51 a.m. that they're evacuating their entire facility. Not just the emergency department, the entire hospital. They have infected patients who broke containment and are now attacking throughout the building. And the decision was made that evacuation is safer than trying to defend the hospital. Hundreds of patients, some in critical condition, are being moved to other facilities or to parking lots because staying inside the hospital means being attacked by infected who are hunting through every floor. At 6:53 a.m., Marcus is showing me thermal imaging from the news helicopter that suggests something disturbing about infected behavior. The thermal camera shows infected individuals avoiding bright sunlight and concentrating in shaded areas. They're not randomly distributed. They're specifically seeking shadows, overpasses, building shade. If they're sensitive to sunlight or heat, that could explain why the initial outbreak happened in early morning darkness, and why infected are congregating in shaded areas now that the sun is up. It could also mean that nighttime will be dramatically more dangerous than daytime, because infected will be more active after dark. The National Guard was officially activated at 6:55 a.m. by the Governor of California. But activated doesn't mean they're here. It means troops are being recalled from wherever they are, assembled at armories, briefed on an unprecedented situation, equipped, and then transported to San Diego. Best case scenario, we're looking at National Guard presence on San Diego streets in 3 to 4 hours. That's 10 or 11 a.m. The question is what San Diego will look like by then. At 6:57 a.m., we're receiving calls from people trapped in high-rise buildings downtown. One caller from a residential tower on Broadway is reporting that infected individuals got into the building and are moving through floors attacking residents. People are barricading themselves in apartments, but they can hear infected in the hallways breaking down doors. This caller is asking if they should try to fight or try to escape to the roof. And I'm telling them to get to the roof if possible, barricade the roof access, and signal for helicopter rescue. But I'm also being honest that I don't know if helicopters are conducting evacuations yet. The Port of San Diego reported at 6:59 a.m. that they're seeing cruise ships preparing to leave port without proper clearance because captains have decided that staying in San Diego is more dangerous than sailing without authorization. These aren't military vessels. They're commercial cruise ships whose captains are making the judgment that protecting their passengers and crew is more important than following port procedures. If I had access to a boat right now, I'd probably be doing the same thing. At 7:01 a.m., the CDC announced they're dispatching a rapid response team from Atlanta. But Atlanta is a 5-hour flight, plus time to organize the team and travel to an airport and actually get airborne. We're looking at CDC presence in San Diego around noon at the earliest, possibly not until mid-afternoon. By that time, the outbreak will be 6 or 7 hours further evolved, and I don't know what they'll be able to accomplish, except study the disaster after it's consumed the city. Marcus is telling me at 7:03 a.m. that social media is reporting similar incidents in Los Angeles. Downtown LA has reports of violent attacks matching the San Diego pattern. Santa Monica has reports. Long Beach has reports. If this has spread to Los Angeles, we're not dealing with a San Diego outbreak anymore. We're dealing with a Southern California catastrophe affecting over 20 million people. The first successful civilian defense was reported at 7:05 a.m. from a neighborhood in Claremont. Residents there saw what was happening on the news, organized themselves into a watch team, armed themselves with whatever weapons they had available, and established a perimeter around their street. When infected individuals attempted to enter their neighborhood, the residents engaged them with baseball bats, golf clubs, and a few hunting rifles. They successfully killed approximately 12 infected without any residents being bitten. This proves that organized groups with adequate preparation can defend themselves if they have warning and resources. At 7:07 a.m., the San Diego Fire Rescue Chief made an announcement I never thought I'd hear. He's pulling all fire rescue personnel back to defensible positions, and they're no longer responding to any calls except in coordination with military or law enforcement protection. San Diego Fire Rescue has effectively ceased normal operations. If your house catches fire right now, if you have a medical emergency, if you need rescue from any situation, fire rescue isn't coming unless you happen to be in one of the few areas they're still operating in. The infection timeline was clarified at 7:09 a.m. based on multiple observed cases. Marcus has been tracking incident reports and hospital data, and here's what we know. Bite exposure at minute 0. First symptoms including fever and confusion at minute 5 to 8. Complete loss of cognitive function at minute 12 to 18. Violent aggression beginning at minute 18 to 25. Physical death if injuries occur between minute 25 to 40, and reanimation approximately 2 to 4 minutes after death. Total timeline from bite to walking infected is roughly 30 to 45 minutes. Less than an hour from normal human to whatever these things are. At 7:11 a.m., UC San Diego released a statement from their medical researchers. They've been analyzing blood samples from infected patients, and they've identified what they're calling a prion-based pathogen. Prions are misfolded proteins that cause other proteins to misfold, similar to mad cow disease, but operating at a vastly accelerated rate. The researchers are saying this doesn't match any known naturally occurring prion, which suggests it's either engineered or a completely novel mutation. Either way, prion diseases have no cure, no treatment, and once infection starts, progression is inevitable. The San Diego Convention Center was designated as an emergency shelter at 7:13 a.m. The city is directing people who can safely reach the convention center to go there where they'll have security and supplies. But here's the problem. The convention center is in downtown San Diego, where some of the heaviest infected concentrations are located. Getting there means traveling through areas where you're highly likely to encounter infected. For many people, trying to reach the shelter is more dangerous than staying where they are. At 7:15 a.m., I need to take another call because people need to hear from survivors. Caller, you're on Outbreak FM. David, this is Sarah. I'm a nurse at Sharp Memorial. We evacuated the emergency department an hour ago because we lost control. The patients who became violent, we couldn't stop them with restraints. We couldn't sedate them. They just kept attacking until we had to leave them and seal the department. But now those infected patients are trying to break out. We can hear them throwing themselves against the doors, trying to get to the rest of the hospital. I don't know how long those doors will hold. Sarah, is there a plan to evacuate the entire hospital if the infected break containment? We're preparing for full evacuation, but David, we have patients in ICU on ventilators, patients in surgery, patients who can't be moved safely. If we evacuate, some of those people won't survive the transport. But if we stay and the infected break through, everyone dies. These are impossible choices. I understand, Sarah. Document everything you're doing, because when this is over, when we investigate what happened, people need to know that medical professionals did everything possible under impossible circumstances. Stay safe. At 7:18 a.m., the SDPD announced they're consolidating forces to defensible positions rather than trying to patrol the entire city. They're creating safe zones at police stations and directing people to rally at those locations for protection. This is an admission that they've lost control of most of San Diego and are implementing triage at the city level, protecting what can be protected and abandoning areas that can't be defended with available resources. Marcus showed me at 7:20 a.m. that power is starting to fail in some neighborhoods. Not widespread blackouts yet, but scattered outages as infrastructure gets damaged and workers abandon their posts. If we lose power across the city, we lose refrigeration, climate control, phone charging, and most critically, the ability to see at night. A dark San Diego tonight will be exponentially more dangerous than the darkness this morning when the outbreak started. The San Diego Unified School District announced at 7:22 a.m. that all schools are closed indefinitely. This seems almost irrelevant given the zombie outbreak, but I mention it because it shows that even during catastrophe, bureaucracy continues. Someone decided they needed to make an official announcement about schools being closed, as if parents were planning to send their kids to school today while infected are eating people in the streets. At 7:24 a.m., the news helicopter is showing footage of Balboa Park, and what I'm seeing is devastating. The park is overrun with infected, hundreds of them wandering through the grounds where families should be visiting museums and enjoying gardens. You can see bodies of people who were caught in the park overnight or this morning. Balboa Park represents San Diego's culture and history, and it's now a hunting ground for infected. The loss is symbolic and practical. That's 1,600 acres of central San Diego that's completely compromised. The 1st National Guard unit arrived in San Diego at 7:26 a.m., ahead of schedule. A convoy of military vehicles from a base in Riverside that was coincidentally conducting training exercises and was diverted to San Diego. This unit of approximately 120 soldiers with armored vehicles represents our first meaningful military response capability. It's nowhere near enough to secure the whole city, but it's enough to create a defended position and start planning larger operations. At 7:28 a.m., this National Guard unit engaged its first infected. The convoy was attacked on Highway 163 by approximately 40 individuals who emerged from surrounding neighborhoods and swarmed the military vehicles. The soldiers engaged with mounted machine guns and eliminated all 40 infected without any soldier casualties. This engagement proved that concentrated military firepower can stop infected effectively, but it also demonstrated how much ammunition it takes. The unit expended over 1,000 rounds to kill 40 targets, which is a ratio that won't be sustainable if we're facing thousands or tens of thousands of infected. Marcus is telling me at 7:30 a.m. that we've been on the air for 1 hour and 43 minutes of continuous emergency broadcasting. We started this broadcast not knowing what we were facing, and now we know we're dealing with a zombie outbreak that's consumed significant portions of San Diego and is spreading to other cities. We're going to continue broadcasting for as long as we have power and as long as we're safe in this studio, because this is how we help. This is our purpose. The Mexican military fired on civilians attempting to cross the border at 7:32 a.m. At least 9 people were killed trying to illegally cross from San Diego into Mexico to escape the outbreak. Mexico is serious about preventing any possibility of infection spreading across their border, and they're willing to kill American citizens to maintain that barrier. It's brutal, but from their perspective, it's necessary to protect their population from what's consuming Southern California. At 7:34 a.m., Sharp Memorial Hospital lost total containment. The infected patients who were sealed in the emergency department broke through barriers and are now attacking throughout the hospital. The hospital administrator ordered immediate evacuation of all personnel and patients. This is one of San Diego's largest hospitals, and it's being completely abandoned because infected control the building and there aren't enough security forces to take it back. The San Diego Zoo reported at 7:36 a.m. that several large predators have escaped their enclosures. The zoo didn't provide specifics about which animals, but they mentioned large cats, which could mean lions, tigers, or leopards. Whether these animals are infected or just confused because their normal routine was disrupted, there are now wild predators loose in Balboa Park on top of the zombie outbreak. This adds yet another layer of danger to an already catastrophic situation. At 7:38 a.m., the National Guard unit that arrived earlier has established a defensive position at Qualcomm Stadium in Mission Valley. They're using the stadium as a rally point and directing civilians to approach for protection. The stadium has high walls, limited access points, and open sightlines, which makes it defensible. This is our first established safe zone with military protection, and people are already starting to arrive seeking shelter. Marcus is monitoring at 7:40 a.m. reports that some infected are showing physical degradation. Infected from the earliest incidents around 5:30 a.m. are now over 2 hours into their reanimated state, and observers are describing them as moving more slowly, being less coordinated, showing visible tissue breakdown. If infected have a limited functional lifespan, that would mean we just need to survive long enough for the current population to degrade naturally, which changes the strategic calculation from needing to kill every infected to needing to avoid them while they slowly collapse over time. The CDC Rapid Response Team updated their arrival time at 7:42 a.m. to approximately 12:30 p.m., about 5 hours from now. They're flying into Marine Corps' Air Station Miramar, since the civilian airport is shut down, and they'll be transported to a laboratory facility by military convoy. Their mission is to analyze the pathogen, understand transmission vectors, and develop treatment protocols, though even the CDC admits that treatment for a prion disease is extremely difficult and could take months or years to develop. At 7:44 a.m., we're receiving reports that neighborhoods across San Diego are organizing defensive positions. Communities in Carmel Valley, Rancho Bernardo, Poway, and other areas are creating barricades, posting armed watch teams, and successfully keeping infected out of their neighborhoods. These are generally more affluent areas with resources and time to prepare, which highlights that survival in this crisis is not equally distributed. Wealthier communities with better organization are surviving while poorer areas with fewer resources are being devastated. The San Diego County Sheriff established a functioning command center at 7:46 a.m. at their Kearney Mesa facility. They're coordinating with National Guard, remaining SDPD units, and fire rescue to create unified response. This is critical because up until now, everyone has been operating independently. Having unified command means resources can be directed efficiently and operations can be coordinated strategically. At 7:48 a.m., the infection count estimate was updated. The County Emergency Operations Center is now estimating approximately 800 active infected individuals across the county based on incident reports and transmission modeling. 800 sounds like a lot until you realize it's less than 0.1% of the county's 3.3 million population. But with exponential growth, 800 becomes 2,400, which becomes 7,200, which becomes the entire population infected within a few transmission cycles. Marcus showed me at 7:50 a.m. a video that's gone viral, showing a group of about 15 civilians in Pacific Beach who organized themselves into a rescue team. They're moving through the streets in formation, armed with baseball bats and crowbars and one hunting rifle, systematically checking businesses for survivors and fighting infected when they encounter them. They've already rescued over 50 people who were trapped, and they're still operating despite several team members being injured. These are ordinary people who decided that hiding wasn't good enough and organized themselves to fight back and save others. The first confirmed infection of an animal was reported at 7:52 a.m. A police dog that was bitten by an infected individual during a response has become aggressive and attacked its handler. This confirms that the prion pathogen can cross species barriers, which means pets, wildlife, and zoo animals could all potentially become infected and transmit to humans. This massively complicates the containment challenge, because now we're not just tracking human infected, we're potentially dealing with infected mammals of all species. At 7:54 a.m., I need to address something directly to anyone listening who's thinking this is the end of the world and there's no point in fighting. I understand that despair. I really do. But you need to know that survival is possible. Thousands of people have already made it to safe zones. Organized neighborhoods are successfully defending themselves. Military forces are arriving with heavy weapons and training. The CDC is working on understanding the pathogen. This is not the end, This is a crisis that can be survived if you don't give up. Please keep fighting. The National Guard strength in San Diego reached approximately 500 soldiers at 7:56 a.m. as additional units arrived from across California. These forces are being deployed to establish additional secure zones, conduct clearing operations in high-priority areas, and protect critical infrastructure like hospitals and utilities. 500 soldiers is still nowhere near enough to secure a county of 3.3 million people, but it's enough to create multiple defended positions and start systematic operations to reclaim infected territory. At 7:58 a.m., the sun is fully up. San Diego is in bright daylight, and from the news helicopter, we can see the true scope of the disaster. Smoke rising from dozens of fires. Abandoned vehicles on every major road. Infected wandering through neighborhoods in groups, ranging from a few individuals to dozens. But we can also see military convoys moving through the city, civilians organizing defensive positions, helicopters flying evacuation missions. San Diego is broken, but it's fighting back. The city refuses to die without a fight. Marcus is coordinating at 8 a.m. with multiple sources to give me a comprehensive situation update. Here's what we know 2.5 hours into the outbreak. Approximately 800 to 1,000 confirmed infected across San Diego County. 3 major hospitals completely lost to infected. 2 hospitals partially evacuated. SDPD down to about 70% operational capacity. Fire rescue operating only with military escort. National Guard establishing 4 secure zones across the county. Power failures affecting roughly 15% of the area. And infection confirmed spreading to Los Angeles, Riverside, and Orange counties. This is no longer a San Diego crisis. This is a Southern California catastrophe. The Coronado Bridge reopened to one-way traffic at 8:02 a.m., but only for official evacuation convoys moving from Coronado Island to mainland San Diego. The naval base on Coronado has thousands of military personnel and their families who are being evacuated in organized military convoys under armed escort. Civilians on Coronado are being told to shelter in place for now, which effectively means they're trapped on that island until military resources are available to evacuate them. At 8:04 a.m., we received a call from someone inside the San Diego Convention Center, which was supposed to be an emergency shelter. The caller, whose name is Jennifer, is reporting that the convention center is completely overrun with infected. The security that was supposed to be there either never arrived or was overwhelmed. Anyone who followed official guidance to go to the convention center for safety walked into one of the most dangerous areas in the city. Jennifer and about 40 other people are barricaded in an upstairs meeting room, and she's asking if rescue is coming. I have to be honest with her. I don't know if anyone can reach the convention center right now to conduct rescue operations. The San Diego Police Department announced at 8:06 a.m. that officers are authorized to commandeer civilian vehicles if necessary for emergency operations. This is the department essentially saying they're losing vehicles to damage and abandonment faster than they can replace them. So they need to take civilian cars to maintain mobility. If you're stopped by police and they take your car, you're not getting it back anytime soon. At 8:08 a.m., Marcus is showing me that cellular networks are becoming unreliable. Too many people trying to make calls simultaneously. Too much damage to cell towers. Too many network facilities being abandoned by workers. Text messages are still getting through intermittently, but voice calls are increasingly difficult. If cell service fails completely, we lose one of our primary methods of coordinating information and tracking the outbreak's spread. The first military clearing operation began at 8:10 a.m. when National Guard forces moved into a section of Pacific Beach to systematically clear infected from businesses and residences. They're going building by building, room by room, killing every infected they find, and evacuating survivors to secure zones. It's brutal, slow work that requires enormous amounts of ammunition and exposes soldiers to constant danger. But it's the only way to actually reclaim territory rather than just defending positions. At 8:12 a.m., the news helicopter captured footage of what might be the largest group of infected yet seen in one place. The thermal camera shows approximately 200 heat signatures moving together through Balboa Park as a coordinated mass. Whether this is actual coordination or just infected following each other's movement, the practical effect is the same. A horde of 200 infected moving together can overwhelm almost any defensive position through sheer numbers. Any location in the path of that group needs to evacuate immediately or prepare for siege. The San Diego Zoo called back at 8:14 a.m. with an update that makes the earlier escaped predators' problem worse. Zoo staff who remained on site to try to secure animals are reporting that some of the escaped big cats are showing aggressive behavior toward humans beyond their normal predatory instincts. They can't confirm if the animals are infected or just responding to the chaos. But either way, there are large predators in Balboa Park actively hunting humans in addition to the zombie outbreak. At 8:16 a.m., Sharp Memorial Hospital reported that fires have started in the abandoned building. Whether from electrical damage or some other cause, the hospital is now burning with infected still inside. Fire rescue can't respond because the area isn't secure, which means the hospital is going to burn to the ground. That's millions of dollars of medical infrastructure and equipment being lost, plus the symbolic destruction of one of San Diego's oldest and most important medical facilities. Marcus told me at 8:18 a.m. that we need to start thinking about rotating broadcasters because we can't maintain continuous coverage indefinitely without rest. We're going to set up 3-hour shifts where I broadcast while he sleeps. Then he broadcasts while I sleep, maintaining 24-hour coverage while preventing us from collapsing from exhaustion. This is going to be a marathon that could last days or weeks, and we need to pace ourselves. The California Highway Patrol announced at 8:20 a.m. that they're seeing massive evacuations on all routes out of San Diego County. Tens of thousands of people are fleeing north toward Los Angeles, east toward desert communities, anywhere away from the outbreak zone. The problem is that some of these evacuees were exposed but aren't showing symptoms yet, which means they're carrying infection to communities that haven't been affected. Every person who evacuates potentially spreads the outbreak further. At 8:22 a.m., we received confirmation that the outbreak has reached Tijuana, Mexico, across the border from San Diego. Despite Mexico's attempts to seal the border and prevent entry, infection has crossed through illegal crossings or through people who were infected before the border closed. Tijuana is now reporting incidents matching the San Diego pattern, which means Mexico's worst fears have been realized. The outbreak is no longer contained to the United States. The National Guard announced at 8:24 a.m. that they're establishing a major secure zone at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. This is a massive military installation with existing security infrastructure, defensible perimeter, and resources to support large civilian populations. Miramar is going to become the primary refuge for San Diego County, potentially protecting tens of thousands of people if they can reach it safely. At 8:26 a.m., I'm seeing reports on social media that some people are refusing to believe this is real. They're calling it fake news, claiming the videos are staged, insisting that zombies can't exist. I understand the impulse to deny something this horrific, but denial gets you killed. This is real, this is happening, and anyone who doesn't take it seriously is going to end up dead or infected. Survival requires accepting the reality of what we're facing, not retreating into comforting denial. The first international response arrived at 8:28 a.m. when a Canadian military transport aircraft landed at Miramar carrying medical supplies and a team of infectious disease specialists. Canada is sending help, and other countries including the United Kingdom, France, and Germany are reportedly preparing aid shipments. The international community is treating this as a global crisis requiring coordinated response, not just an American problem. At 8:30 a.m., Marcus is compiling casualty estimates based on all available data. He's calculating that San Diego County has likely suffered approximately 3,000 deaths in the past 3 hours, with another 1,000 people currently infected and spreading the disease. 3,000 dead from a population of 3.3 million is roughly 0.1%, which sounds small until you realize that's 3,000 families destroyed. 3,000 people who woke up this morning expecting a normal day and are now gone forever. The CDC Rapid Response Team is now estimating arrival at Miramar by 11:30 a.m. at 8:32 a.m., moving their timeline up by an hour. They're prioritizing getting to San Diego as quickly as possible, which suggests they're extremely concerned about the potential for this outbreak to become a pandemic if it's not contained in Southern California. Every hour they can arrive earlier potentially saves lives through better understanding of the pathogen and more effective response guidance. At 8:34 a.m., the news helicopter showed footage of the Pacific Beach civilian rescue team that I mentioned earlier. That team of about 15 people who are rescuing survivors has been overrun. The helicopter captured them making a last stand in a parking structure, fighting desperately against a group of infected that outnumbered them at least 3-1. The last image shows them being pulled down one by one, despite their courageous fighting. These civilians died as heroes trying to save others, and they deserve to be remembered even though most of them will never be individually identified. The San Diego Police Department reported at 8:36 a.m. that they've completely lost contact with officers in several precincts. Downtown Central Division, Northern Division, and Mid-City Division have all gone radio silent, which likely means those stations have been overrun, and the officers are either dead, infected, or fled to other locations. That's 3 of the 9 SDPD divisions offline, which means vast areas of the city have no organized law enforcement presence. At 8:38 a.m., Marcus is showing me thermal imaging that reveals something disturbing about infected movement patterns. The infected aren't moving randomly. They're concentrating around areas where large numbers of uninfected people are sheltering. It's like they can sense where prey is concentrated, whether through noise, movement, heat signatures, or some other mechanism. High-rise buildings with many residents show dozens of infected congregating at ground level trying to find ways inside. This suggests that large groups sheltering together may actually attract infected rather than providing safety through numbers. The National Guard Pacific Beach clearing operation achieved its first major objective at 8:40 a.m. by securing a 10-block area and evacuating 212 civilians to Qualcomm Stadium safe zone. The operation required 2 hours of intense combat, expended over 20,000 rounds of ammunition, and resulted in one soldier being bitten and later euthanized, but it successfully cleared and secured territory that was completely overrun. This proves that systematic clearing operations can work if sufficient force and resources are applied. At 8:42 a.m., we're receiving reports from listeners about successful neighborhood defenses across the county. A community in Scripps Ranch reports 0 infected penetration after organizing armed patrols and establishing barricades. A neighborhood in Carmel Valley reports similar success. Multiple communities in Poway, Rancho Bernardo, and Del Mar are reporting that organized defense is keeping them safe. The pattern is clear. Communities that organized early with adequate resources are surviving, while unprepared communities are being devastated. The San Diego County Sheriff announced at 8:44 a.m. that all county jail facilities are being evacuated. They're releasing non-violent offenders and transferring violent offenders to secure facilities outside the outbreak zone because maintaining security in jails requires resources they can't spare during this crisis. This means potentially thousands of criminals being released into a city that's already in chaos. But the alternative is leaving inmates locked in cells where they'd starve or be killed by infected who breach the facilities. At 8:46 a.m., I need to take a call from someone who represents what many people are experiencing right now. Caller, you're on Outbreak FM.
David, my name is Robert. I'm 73 years old. I live alone in City Heights, and I can hear them outside my apartment. I can hear them in the hallway. I don't have weapons. I don't have food for more than a day or two, and I don't know what to do. Nobody is coming to help old people like me. We're just supposed to die here.
Robert, I hear you, and I understand your fear. But you're not forgotten. The National Guard is establishing secure zones, and they will conduct evacuation operations for people who can't defend themselves. Your priority right now is staying safe in your apartment. Barricade your door with furniture. Stay quiet so you don't attract attention. Ration whatever food and water you have. Help is coming, but it's going to take time to reach everyone. Can you do that for me?
I'll try, David. I'll try.
Stay strong, Robert. We're going to get through this. At 8:48 a.m., Marcus is telling me that call represents thousands of elderly, disabled, and vulnerable people across San Diego who are trapped and unable to defend themselves. These are the people who are going to die in the highest numbers unless military and emergency services can conduct targeted rescue operations to evacuate them to safe zones. The tragedy is that resources are so limited that rescuing everyone isn't possible, which means some people like Robert are going to be left behind, not because we don't care, but because we can't reach everyone. The first confirmed infection in a hospital worker occurred at 8:50 a.m. when a doctor at UC San Diego Medical Center, who was bitten while treating a violent patient, went through complete infection progression and had to be euthanized by security. This represents the nightmare scenario for medical professionals. Becoming infected while trying to help others, then having to be killed by their own colleagues to prevent them from spreading infection. The psychological trauma on medical staff from these experiences is going to be lasting. At 8:52 a.m., the National Guard announced they're going to conduct a massive clearing operation in downtown San Diego starting at 10 a.m. They're calling it Operation Reclaim, and the goal is to systematically clear all of downtown from the waterfront to Balboa Park, eliminating every infected individual and securing the urban core of the city. This is going to be the largest military operation in an American city in modern history. And it's going to be absolutely brutal in terms of the violence required and the potential for collateral casualties. The San Diego Unified School District announced at 8:54 a.m. that they're offering school facilities as temporary shelters and military staging areas. Schools are distributed throughout the county, have large buildings with commercial kitchens, and many have defensible perimeters. This is a smart use of existing infrastructure, turning elementary schools and high schools into fortresses and refugee centers. At 8:56 a.m., we're receiving reports that some infected are dying permanently, rather than just degrading. Infected from the very earliest incidents around 5:30 a.m. are now 3.5 hours into their reanimated state, and multiple observers report seeing them simply collapse and stop moving entirely. If infected have a maximum functional lifespan of 3 to 4 hours before complete system failure, that means areas that were overrun early are becoming safe as those infected die off permanently. This creates windows for rescue operations in areas that were previously too dangerous to enter. Marcus showed me at 8:58 a.m. that power failures are accelerating. About 30% of San Diego County is now without electricity as infrastructure continues failing. Losing power means losing refrigeration, climate control, phone charging, and the ability to see at night. If we hit complete blackout tonight, which is looking increasingly likely, the next night is going to be exponentially more dangerous than the darkness when this outbreak started. The Mexican government issued a statement at 9 a.m. declaring a national emergency and closing all border crossings with the United States. Mexico is treating the entire U.S. as an infected zone and implementing complete isolation. This is going to have massive economic and diplomatic consequences, but in the short term, it means anyone in the U.S. is cut off from reaching Mexico for safety or assistance. At 9:02 a.m., the National Guard established their fourth secure zone at a school complex in Scripps Ranch. Combined with Qualcomm Stadium, Miramar Air Station, and a shopping center in Carmel Valley, there are now 4 major protected areas where civilians can shelter with military security. The zones are being stocked with food, water, and medical supplies airlifted in from outside the outbreak area. The San Diego Fire Rescue reported at 9:04 a.m. that over 40% of the city is experiencing uncontrolled fires. Without fire rescue able to respond safely, fires that start from any cause are burning unchecked until they exhaust available fuel. Entire neighborhoods in some areas are being lost to fire on top of the zombie outbreak, and the smoke is creating visibility problems that make the crisis even worse. At 9:06 a.m., I need to tell everyone listening about something that gives me hope despite everything we've seen this morning. Marcus is showing me coordination happening across social media where survivors are organizing rescue operations, sharing information about safe routes, coordinating supply distribution, and providing mutual support. People are coming together to help each other in ways that bureaucratic systems can't match. Communities are creating networks of resistance and survival that don't depend on official response. This is humanity at its best, strangers helping strangers because it's the right thing to do. The infection count estimate was updated at 9:08 a.m. to approximately 2,500 active infected across the county. This represents growth from the 1,000 estimated an hour ago, but it's slower growth than exponential models predicted. The combination of military intervention, civilian defense, and natural degradation of early infected is slowing the spread. We're not winning yet, but we're not losing as fast as we could be. At 9:10 a.m., the CDC Rapid Response Team landed at Miramar. They're setting up a mobile laboratory immediately and beginning analysis of blood samples, tissue samples, and environmental samples to understand the prion pathogen at a molecular level. They're also coordinating with researchers worldwide who are studying similar samples from outbreaks in other cities. The scientific response is beginning, even though practical treatment is likely months away. Marcus told me at 9:12 a.m. that we're approaching 4 hours of continuous broadcasting. 4 hours of documenting San Diego's worst crisis, trying to help people survive, providing information that official sources either don't have or can't distribute effectively. We're exhausted. We're traumatized by what we've seen and heard, but we're going to continue because this is what we do. This is how we help. Stay with us because we're not going anywhere. The sun is bright over San Diego at 9:14 a.m. And from the news helicopter footage, I can see the city in harsh daylight. What should be morning rush hour traffic is instead a landscape of abandoned vehicles and blocked roads. What should be people going to work is instead groups of infected wandering through neighborhoods and survivors hiding wherever they can. But I can also see military convoys moving with purpose, helicopters conducting evacuations, organized defensive positions holding ground. San Diego is broken, but it's fighting back with everything it has. At 9:16 a.m., Sharp Memorial Hospital, which has been burning for over an hour, partially collapsed. The fire compromised structural elements, and a significant portion of the building came down with infected still inside. The hospital that served San Diego for decades is now a burning ruin, and the symbolism of watching it fall is almost as painful as the practical loss of medical infrastructure. The National Guard Operation Rockling began early at 9:18 a.m. when advance units started securing the perimeter around the downtown target area. They're establishing checkpoints, clearing approach routes, and positioning heavy weapons to support the main clearing operation. The scale of this operation is massive, involving over 800 soldiers, dozens of vehicles, and coordination with remaining SDPD units who know the terrain. At 9:20 a.m., we received word that the Pacific Beach neighborhood where civilian rescue teams were operating earlier has been declared too dangerous for further operations. The infected concentration there is too high, and the area is being ceded to infected control until enough military resources are available for a full clearing operation. This means anyone still trapped in Pacific Beach is on their own for now. Marcus showed me at 9:22 a.m. updated thermal imaging revealing the infected horde in Balboa Park has grown to over 300 individuals. This is the largest concentration of infected in a single location, and they're slowly moving west toward neighborhoods surrounding the park. Any community in the path of that horde needs to evacuate immediately because 300 infected can overwhelm any defensive position through sheer mass. The first successful helicopter evacuation of a large group occurred at 9:24 a.m. when a National Guard helicopter landed on the roof of a downtown high-rise and evacuated 47 people who had been trapped since early morning. The helicopter made 3 trips to ferry everyone to Miramar, and every person survived the evacuation. This represents the kind of targeted rescue operation that can save lives if we have enough helicopters and enough time. At 9:26 a.m., the SDPD announced they're implementing a new protocol for dealing with infected. Any infected individual encountered will be engaged with lethal force immediately, without attempt at less lethal control. Officers are being told that trying to arrest or restrain infected just gets officers bitten, and the only acceptable response is immediate headshot. This represents the complete abandonment of normal law enforcement procedures in favor of treating every infected encounter as a combat situation. The San Diego Zoo reported at 9:28 a.m. that they've lost contact with all remaining staff on site. Nobody is responding to radio calls, and thermal imaging from helicopters shows heat signatures throughout the zoo grounds, but can't distinguish between infected humans, escaped animals, or possibly both. The zoo is being declared a no-go zone indefinitely, which means all those animals are on their own to survive or die without human care. At 9:30 a.m., the National Guard strength in San Diego reached approximately 1,200 soldiers as additional units continued arriving from across California and from neighboring states. Arizona is sending units. Nevada is sending units. Even Oregon and Washington are deploying forces to assist with what's being treated as a national emergency, requiring coordinated interstate response. Marcus told me at 9:32 a.m. that cell networks are failing completely in some areas. About 40% of the county now has no cell service at all, and the remaining 60% is experiencing severe degradation. Text messages are still getting through intermittently in some areas, but voice calls are essentially impossible. We're losing one of our primary communication methods right when we need it most. The first National Guard soldier was killed in action at 9:34 a.m. during the downtown clearing operation. Specialist Amanda Chun was shot by friendly fire in the confusion of close-quarters combat in a darkened building where infected and soldiers were fighting in proximity. Her death was an accident, but it highlights the extreme danger of clearing operations in urban environments where distinguishing friend from foe is difficult. At 9:36 a.m., we're receiving reports that some communities are turning away refugees from infected areas. Neighborhoods that successfully established defensive perimeters are refusing to allow anyone from outside to enter because they fear admitting infected or people who are exposed. It's harsh. It's cruel to desperate people seeking safety, but it's also rational from the perspective of protecting the people inside the perimeter. Survival is forcing people to make impossible choices between compassion and security. The CDC team announced at 9:38 a.m. their first preliminary finding. The prion pathogen shows characteristics of being engineered rather than naturally occurring. The molecular structure includes elements that don't exist in any known natural prion, which suggests this is either a biological weapon that was released deliberately or accidentally, or it's the result of research into prion diseases that escaped containment. Either way, this outbreak has a human origin, which raises enormous questions about accountability and whether similar research in other locations could cause additional outbreaks. At 9:40 a.m., the evacuation from the convention center began. National Guard forces fought their way into the building and are extracting the approximately 40 people who were trapped when the building was overrun. The evacuation is ongoing and dangerous, but it represents the first successful rescue from a location that was completely surrounded and infiltrated by infected. Marcus showed me at 9:42 a.m. a map showing the geographic spread of infection across not just San Diego, but Southern California. Los Angeles has hundreds of confirmed incidents. Orange County has dozens. Riverside has dozens. San Bernardino has reports. We're looking at a regional outbreak affecting the entire Southern California urban corridor, from Ventura to San Diego, which is home to over 23 million people. This is not a city crisis anymore. This is a catastrophe affecting one of the largest urban areas in the world. The National Guard announced at 9:44 a.m. that they're establishing emergency supply points where civilians can receive food, water, and medical care without having to travel to the main secure zones. These supply points are being set up at strategic locations throughout the county, each defended by a small military unit, creating a network of support that extends beyond the major protected areas. At 9:46 a.m., we received confirmation that the outbreak has reached Phoenix. A family that evacuated from San Diego arrived in Phoenix yesterday, showed no symptoms when they arrived, and transformed overnight. Phoenix is now fighting its own outbreak with no preparation and no warning. Every evacuation from San Diego is potentially seeding new outbreaks in communities that haven't been affected yet. The San Diego County Sheriff announced at 9:48 a.m. that they're creating a citizen notification system using emergency broadcast channels. They're going to broadcast safe routes to secure zones, locations of supply points, and areas to avoid, essentially creating a survival map for people trying to navigate the outbreak. This is the first coordinated information distribution system beyond what we're doing on this radio station. At 9:50 a.m., I need to pause and acknowledge something that Marcus just pointed out to me. We've been broadcasting for over 4 hours straight, providing continuous emergency coverage without break. We've become the primary information source for thousands of people across San Diego who are listening on radios, on phones, in cars, in homes, wherever they are. This broadcast has evolved from emergency alert into something more. It's become the voice of San Diego during its darkest hours, and we're honored and terrified by that responsibility. The infection count was updated at 9:52 a.m. to approximately 3,000 active infected, but this number comes with a caveat. It only includes confirmed sightings. The actual number is likely significantly higher, possibly double or triple the confirmed count. We're operating with massive uncertainty about the true scale of infection, which makes strategic planning extremely difficult. At 9:54 a.m., the downtown clearing operation encountered heavy resistance when soldiers entered the Gaslamp Quarter and found the area more densely packed with infected than intelligence suggested. The unit requested reinforcements, and the timeline for clearing downtown has been extended from the initially planned 4 hours to possibly 8 to 12 hours, given the infected concentration they're facing. Marcus told me at 9:56 a.m. that we need to address something we've been avoiding. The reality that many people listening to this broadcast right now are not going to survive. Some are trapped in locations with no hope of rescue. Some are injured and can't reach medical care. Some are going to encounter infected despite our warnings and advice. We can't save everyone. All we can do is provide information that gives people the best possible chance and hope that chance is enough. The National Guard Miramar Secure Zone reported at 9:58 a.m. that they've reached capacity at 5,000 people and are temporarily closing to new arrivals until they can expand the secured perimeter and bring in additional supplies. This means the primary refuge for San Diego County is full and turning people away, which creates a crisis for the thousands of people still trying to reach safety. At 10 a.m. exactly, we've crossed into hour 5 of this outbreak and hour 5 of our broadcast. 5 hours since the first incident at Ocean Beach Pier. 5 hours of watching San Diego descend from normal city into war zone. 5 hours of trying to help people survive something that shouldn't be possible. Marcus and I are going to continue broadcasting as long as we can, rotating shifts to maintain coverage while getting minimal rest. This is what we do. This is how we help. And we're not stopping until this crisis ends, or we can't continue. The CDC team announced at 10:02 a.m. that they've identified a potential weakness in the prine structure that could be exploited for treatment. It's extremely preliminary. It would take weeks to develop into an actual therapy, but it's the first indication that this pathogen might be treatable rather than universally fatal. Even if treatment is weeks away, knowing there's a scientific path forward provides hope that this crisis has an eventual medical solution. At 10:04 a.m., the National Guard Operation Reclaim achieved its first major objective by securing the waterfront area from the airport to the convention center. This creates a cleared corridor along the bay that can be used for supply delivery by boat and provides a defensible position with water on one side, limiting the directions from which infected can attack. Marcus showed me at 10:06 a.m. that power has failed completely in approximately 50% of San Diego County. Half the county is now dark, which means tonight is going to be exponentially more dangerous than last night, because infected will be more active in darkness, and survivors won't be able to see threats until physical contact. We need to warn everyone that tonight is going to be worse than anything we've experienced so far. The first successful community defense network was established at 10:08 a.m. when 5 neighborhoods in North County coordinated their defensive efforts and created a unified protected zone covering approximately 20 square miles and protecting over 8,000 people. This represents the largest civilian organized safe area, and it proves that communities working together can create security that rivals military operations. At 10:10 a.m., we received word that the elderly man who called earlier, Robert from City Heights, was successfully rescued by a National Guard patrol that happened to be operating in his area. He's been evacuated to Miramar and is safe. This is one small victory in a day of overwhelming tragedy. But it matters because it means our broadcast helped save at least one life by keeping Robert alive and hopeful until rescue arrived. The San Diego Police Department announced at 10:12 a.m. that they're completely abandoning the downtown area and relocating command to a facility in Kearny Mesa. Downtown is being ceded to military control for the clearing operation, and SDPD will focus on protecting suburban areas where they can actually maintain presence without being overwhelmed by infected. At 10:14 a.m., the National Guard announced they're going to conduct nighttime operations using night vision equipment to clear infected while they're more active. This is a reversal of earlier strategy that focused on daytime operations, but it's based on the observation that infected concentrate in darkness, which means engaging them at night targets them when they're most concentrated and therefore most vulnerable to area weapons. Marcus told me at 10:16 a.m. that we're going to implement our shift rotation now. I'm going to broadcast for 2 more hours, and Marcus will take over while I rest for 4 hours. Then I'll come back for another shift. This schedule lets us maintain continuous coverage while ensuring neither of us completely collapses. Our listeners need this broadcast, and we're going to provide it no matter what it costs us personally. The infection count was updated at 10:18 a.m. to approximately 3,500 active infected, but this is accompanied by an estimate that about 500 of the earliest infected have degraded to complete immobility or death. We're starting to see the infected population shrink through natural degradation, which means we're past the exponential growth phase and into the degradation phase, where time is on our side. At 10:20 a.m., I need to tell everyone listening something important. If you've survived the first 5 hours of this outbreak, you've proven you can survive. You've adapted to a new reality. You've made smart decisions about safety. You've resisted panic. The next 5 hours are going to be just as challenging, but you have what it takes to survive them. Stay strong. Stay smart. Stay alive. We're going to get through this together, and when this is over, we're going to rebuild San Diego into something stronger than what we lost. I believe that. And I need you to believe it too.